Okay, should we rock and roll?
Me.
Okay.
I've been working on it. Working on it. I've been working on it. Working on.
Okay.
All right, friends and family, welcome to another episode of Workin On It Pod. This is the day, folks. This is the day. And unfortunately, I can't be there in person because I'm feeling sick and I don't want to get Dr. Phil sick at all. Dr. Phil is in the building.
Dr. Phil's on the show. Hi, Dr. Phil.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. I miss you. You're my
I miss
favorite.
you. I haven't seen you for a while.
Forever. And I just read your text that you sent me over Christmas, and I'm the worst person. I didn't respond. I didn't see it. I'm so sorry.
I felt very
He's a bad
rejected.
texter.
Dude, I was the nicest, sweetest message. He said he was listening to my Christmas album, and I was like, thank you. I love you too.
Really a good album.
Thank you so much.
I mean, seriously, not because I'm a fan. It's a really good album.
Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you so much. We are back on the podcast. We're talking about mental health today, working on mental health, something I'm very vocal about because I noticed during my struggles that hearing other people talk about their mental health struggles made me feel like I wasn't alone and made me feel better.
Number one thing you can do if you're feeling bad, whether it's anxious, alone, stressed, depressed, OCD, whatever it is give it a voice. Because you don't feel alone. People think sometimes when they feel this that, oh my God, it's just me. I've invented this. I'm the only one feeling this way. And you start feeling isolated. Give it a voice and you find out, oh my God, the person next to me in the grocery store line, the person in the car next to me, my sister, my brother. So many people feel exactly the way I do. Give it a voice.
Give it a voice. This is going to be a phenomenal
go. I'm
episode.
already loving
Buckle
it.
up, everybody.
That's
oh
it.
My
I'm out.
Good. That was so good. You're so good at this, man. Oh, my
Mic
Lord.
dropped.
But yeah, when I started really having physical and I had reactions. I was having panic attacks and I didn't know it could take over your whole body, like running to the bathroom or feeling like I had a fever. And I literally thought I was schizophrenic at one point because things started moving and I was so scared. And I was like, I pictured myself like being locked away forever and was like, how am I going to come back to this? How am I going to go back to performing on stage ever again?
There's very little that we don't have the ability to manage. And it's not about, life is not cured, life is managed. And so everything in our lives is usually managed. So if you have a mental illness and I hate that there's such a stigma associated with it that causes people to not give it a voice.
Yep.
But, we don't react to what happens in our life. We react to what we say to ourselves about what happens in our life. And it's not...
Bars.
It's what?
Bars. That was
true.
Amazing.
But it's true. You react if your expectations are violated. If you expect A and you get A, it's like, okay. If you expect A and you get B or C or D or E, that's when you have a reaction, right? And it's like when people get married. If they expect, my spouse is going to meet me every day at the door with a martini naked, and that's your expectation of marriage, and then you get married and you think, oh no, that's not what happened. We had to share time, space, money, time, all division of labor. That's what you get. Then you go, oh my God, we must have a terrible marriage. No, you don't. You just expected something different. And I think it's so important that people focus on what they're saying to themselves. And you've got to challenge your thoughts. Am I telling myself something that's rational? And there's even ways to test your thoughts to see, is this rational? And if it's not, I'm going to replace it with something it is. And then all of a sudden, things start turning up.
You're my favorite person ever. You're my favorite person
I love
who's
that. I
ever
feel like
existed.
That's what I've finally started doing. I feel like I've always had irrational thoughts and I would listen to the terrible thoughts and then I would try to shut up the bad thoughts with any kind of liquor I could find. Recently sober, Dr. Phil, 8 months now.
Congratulations. I've been following that. I know you're 8 months sober, so
Wow,
congratulations.
he knows.
I do know. I've been following you 8 months in.
Weren't you hungover at a show when we went there in
I
person?
was hungover when I was at your show.
Looked a little rough.
Yep. I was a little banged up. Still loved it, but again, I just wasn't present, and now I'm finally present. I'm feeling much better, and actually, you're one of the people kind of in my life that inspired me, because I'm like, Dr. Phil doesn't drink, and Dr. Phil crushes life.
You don't drink?
No, I don't.
My mic.
I dropped my mic. You dropped your cord.
Okay, you don't drink.
No, my dad was a really bad alcoholic.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's psychological totally or there's some physio to it, but I made the decision not to. The last time I tried to get drunk, and I did try to get drunk, was in high school, and I got hungover while I was drinking. It was like somebody hit me in the head with an axe.
Wow.
And I don't know if it's an allergic reaction or psychological, and it was hot beer in the morning in the parking lot at high school, so that probably wasn't the best test. But I was the designated driver before there was such a thing.
Wow.
I've had more friends throw up in my car for somebody that doesn't drink. But I haven't had a drink in over 50 years.
That's why you look so good.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's amazing. My mom's like that too.
Been bald since I was 12.
Oh.
So it didn't make my hair
Who
fall
needs
out.
hair? No one
yeah.
needs hair.
But I've just never been tempted. I saw what it did to him, and it really destroyed his life.
Yeah.
And I thought, nah, not for me.
That's awesome that you could see that and do that.
Yeah, I remember back as young as 10, 12 years old, I'd look at him and think, what the hell? And then he'd feel so bad the next morning. I thought, I don't know what you did last night, but it cannot be worth what you're going through this morning.
Yeah. And then they just keep drinking on top of it. That was
Yeah.
Ryan's specialty. That's why he had wine
That's
wine
alcoholism.
for lunch. Yeah.
Hair of the dog, right?
I also
Yeah,
practiced.
hair of the dog.
I practiced 3 times your big long intro that I was going to do, and
Oh, yeah?
I didn't do it.
All right, let's hear it.
No, now I'm going to botch it.
They say the more you've done, the shorter the intro, so...
Actually, it's pretty short. Okay. Well, it's like, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, today on the show, we have a hero of mine, someone that I watch and study every single day. The host of the Dr. Phil show that has 20 seasons.
We're in our 20th.
20 seasons. He's written multiple books, award-winning books. I mean, I don't know, like number ones here and there, right? I love this one. This one's amazing. Let me read it. Life Code.
Right.
I'm in the beginning of it, but I'm in it. This one's excellent. And he's a father, and he's a husband to Robin, who I love so much. What else did you do?
I just get up every day looking for work.
A hard worker. He filmed 3 episodes today already on the Dr. Phil show. Now he's here on our couch. So
That's
we
insane.
love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being
Appreciate
here.
your time.
We just are. I'm obsessed with your brain and how it works. Some stuff you say, I literally quote you to my family members. I say, perception is reality. I love that you say that.
Well, I want to apologize to all your family.
No.
You're throwing me up
They
in your face
love
every day.
it. They love it.
I'm sure they're saying, oh, God.
I called my auntie before I got here. I was like, Dr. Phil's about to pull up. And they were like, oh my God. I literally, do you have the picture? I have, sometimes when I'm very lucky and I have a Saturday off, I get a massage. And this is how my massages look. I literally play Dr. Phil nonstop
All right, I love it.
while I'm getting a massage. And that's what calms me down. Is there a reason why chaos on your show calms me down? Do you know what that means?
Yeah,
What does that mean?
yeah. Well, I think everybody that we have on the show is designed to be a teaching tool.
Yes.
And I think you may not relate to everything that's going on with them, and it may not be as extreme in one category and less extreme in another, but you look at it and you go, okay, it's like I say, you give it a voice and you see somebody else is experiencing this in maybe more or less degree, and you think, what they're talking about, what he's saying to them, what they're taking away from that. Wow, I can use that in my life or my
Yes.
family without having to be on the chopping block.
Yep.
And so, but everybody really is designed to be a teaching tool. So I think it's a great way to learn. And when there's an interesting story, then it's so much easier to learn. I could stand up and say, okay, today I'm going to tell you about the 5 points of forgiveness. God, my own mother would be tuned out by the third point. But if you tell a compelling story, I remember a woman one time that had her child in a car seat, and she pulled into a convenience store, and she ran in to get a little juice box, and she was waving at the child in the car, and this drug addict ran up and jumped in her car.
I know the story.
And it was crazy. She had the air conditioner on, so she left the car running, and she runs out to get him. Said, I don't care, take the car, let me have my baby. Got the infant seat halfway out of the car, and he drove off, dragging the baby.
Yep.
And it killed the baby. And she said, how can I ever forgive myself? And she waited for me to answer the question. Now, every mother in America is leaning forward to listen to the answer to that question, because she's sitting there thinking, I feel so bad about being late to carpool yesterday if my child was sitting on a curb. I feel so bad about, not doing this or not doing that. If he can tell her how to forgive herself for that, I can damn sure forgive myself for being late to carpool.
Yeah.
So I can sit up and lecture about the 5 points, or we can deal with a real life compelling story and get the message across. That's how you teach people how to relate to stories in their life and learn the lessons they need to learn. And that's why I have those people on, so someone can listen and go, wow, I can apply that in my own life.
Yup.
Wow.
Saw that episode. I saw your all your episodes multiple times, so I can literally quote them at this point. But I saw you also with Oprah. Can you tell us how you met Oprah?
I can. Before, when I had a real job, I had a trial science firm, and we did all kinds of work in the litigation arena. People would come to us, lawyers would come to us with complex cases, and they would say, we need help knowing what's the best strategy for presenting this case. And we would study the case, and they'd want to know, what kind of jurors do we want? There'd be maybe 1,000 points to the case, and some set of that 1,000 would be the key points of the case. They'd want us to figure out which ones are the ones to focus on. Then they'd ask us to help pick the jury, then train the witnesses to tell the truth effectively, design all the graphics, all of those things. So we did all this kind of trial work, and it was usually in really complex cases. And Oprah was sued in the Mad Cow case up in Amarillo, and I had just finished defending Diane Sawyer, ABC, in 2020 in the Food Lion case, which was a big case where the Food Lion grocery chain was sued, and we had to defend the network and them. And we had just finished that case, and Oprah's case was going to trial, and they said, wow, we need help. So we were hired into that case. And so I worked with her for 2 or 3 years defending her up in Amarillo, Texas.
Wow.
Behind enemy lines, because she was sued by the cattlemen in Amarillo. And when it came time for trial, she said, what can I do to help? And I said, well, you could move your show to Amarillo. And she said, okay. She turned around, picked up the phone, said, find me a theater in Amarillo. I'm moving my show to Amarillo. And then we moved into a bed and breakfast out on the edge of town and lived there for 3 months. So I had a sister I never wanted. I already had 3.
Wow.
So we lived together up there for 3 months in a bed and breakfast out on the edge of town, and tried that case to a verdict up there. And they were suing her for several $billion.
Jesus, I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, they were suing her for multiple $1 billion. And we zeroed them out. They got 0.
Good job.
And I met her then. And she had this commitment, she said to her audiences, if I find anything in my life that I think really has an impact, makes a difference, whether it's a hair dryer or a product or a person, I promise to share it with you. And she said, I remember the night the verdict came in, she had the whole trial team on the show, and she introduced me and she said, this is the person that gave myself back to me during this trial.
Yes.
Because I lost myself during this trial.
I did see this.
And so I'm going to share him with you. And she asked me to be on the show. And at first I said no, but then ultimately I said yes. And
then you're like, wow, I love being on TV. I'm going to do
Yeah.
my own thing.
Yeah, well, I was on every Tuesday for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And because she said, if you ever want to do your own show, just tell me and we'll do it.
Wow.
And I never said I wanted to do my own show. And one day after 4 years, I was walking by her office up in Chicago, and she said, hey, come in here. I came in, she said, it's time. She said, 80% of our mail is to you. And she said, that was when you could order these scripts from the show from Burrell's. And she said, 95% of the scripts that are ordered are for your shows, because they're content heavy. And she said, it's time. You need to do your own show. So I said, well, okay.
Wow.
And so we made the plans and did it. And so we did one more year, and then while we put my show together, and then we launched it. And that was 20 years ago.
Jeez Louise.
Unreal.
So cool.
And we've been number one for 12 years. And people
Whoop,
said,
whoop, whoop.
people ask me sometimes, what's your secret of being number one? I said, well, she quit.
Yes.
My secret is she quit 8 years ago,
She
12
quit. That's
years
my
ago.
secret.
That's my secret. I got her to quit.
Yeah.
'Cause I was
Wow.
number two. I was number two for all that time. Then she quit.
That's so awesome. Oh man, it's the best show ever. I learned so much on your show.
Well, I'm glad.
Dr. Amen told me that I had a brain that lights up when it wants exciting and scary things.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I love your show too. Also,
I have yet to scan my brain. I think
you
we're
got
getting
to
close.
do it. It's cool. I
Dr.
learned
Drew
so
said
much.
to wait for a while to
Yeah,
let
we had
the
Dr.
chemicals
Drew on the show.
Yeah.
release.
Yeah, he has to wait for his chemicals to chill out while getting sober,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then scan it. But you know,
think
Dr.
we're getting
Amen,
close.
I'm on a group chat with y'all because you guys saved me and helped me, and you're the greatest.
Yeah. Dr. Amen is a really cutting edge psychiatrist and neurological guy, and he's got the biggest database of brain scans in the world.
In the world.
I mean, he's got like
That's why I trust him.
it's approaching 200,000 now.
Yeah. It's so cool. I recommend it if you're out there and you can get a brain scan. Do it.
Yeah, we're very good friends and colleagues. I have the greatest respect for him.
He's going to love this episode. Oh, we got to have Dr. Amen on the show now.
Yes, we do.
I have like two specific questions for you that I've always struggled with, but I don't know if there is an answer. But how do you, this is great. This is like if I ever had Dr. Phil on my couch, what would I ask him? This is that question. When you have a loved one, whether it's family or friends, and you're watching them destroy themselves, whether it's like with crippling anxiety and they're in denial, or substance abuse and they're in denial, or mental health issues, and you can see like something's not clicking right. How can you, like, there's no way you can tell them like, hey, you got a problem, like get help. Or is there a way to do that?
There is. And it may not be on your schedule, but I tell you what I've had the most luck with, particularly with people that I'm close to, is the minute you use the word need, you need to get help. Defense comes up. People get really defensive. But if, on the other hand, you go to them and say, you really deserve better than what you're living right now. I know you, I love you, and you deserve better than what you're living and what you have. And I want to help you get that if you'll let me. It really makes a difference. it's hard for people to argue with you telling them that they need better than what they have, because there's a level at which they know that what they're doing is dysfunctional, that they know that what they're doing is self-destructive. And people always argue about topics because they don't have the courage to embrace the underlying issues. And when you start talking about deserve instead of need, they're much more likely to embrace the issues instead of the topics. And I want to make a point about what I mean about the difference. Let's say there's a husband who's frustrated because he's not having a good sex life with his wife, but he's afraid to bring it up because he doesn't want to hear the truth. He doesn't want to get rejected. He doesn't want to hear, I'm just not attracted to you anymore. So he'll come home and slam the door and say, who left the tricycle in the driveway? So they can get into a fight about that. The real issue is I'm feeling rejected, I'm feeling unwanted, I'm feeling all of these bad things. That's what's really bothering him. That's the issue. But he'll start a fight about the topic because the tricycle in the driveway is safe. That's the topic. The real issue is that he's feeling hurt and rejected. What you need to talk about is the issue, but how do you approach that? And that's the same thing. You can go to somebody and say, you drink too much, you're being self-destructive, you're working too much, you're whatever it is. But if you go to them and say, I love you, and I really think you deserve better than you're getting, better than you're giving yourself, better than I'm creating for you, and I'm committed to changing that for you.
Yeah, now that I think about that, you do that to your guests on your show.
I do.
Like, yeah, oh my God. Like when you have like a teenager who's out of control or something, you're like, hey, I'm on your side. You don't deserve any of this. And I'm like,
it's hard
wow,
to fight
she's
with an ally.
opening up. Yeah, it is.
It's hard to fight with an ally. If somebody says, look, I'm on your side. I'm just, how do you fight with somebody that's lifting you up?
Wow.
Yeah. From the opposite end, when, Meghan would come to me like, you need therapy. You need to do this. You need to do this. I was like, how the fuck do you know what I need? I know what I need. It was pretty much the go-to response.
Yes.
She was right all along. But I guess
exactly.
if she said the way that you said it, which was just
It's hard too
glorious.
because I'm your little sister.
Yeah.
We started this podcast and I was like, you would love therapy. It's amazing, man. Like, we got to get them demons out of you. And
No, it was like, you need therapy, you need a wife, you need this.
Yeah, so that's what he heard. Perception is reality. So when we got Dr. Drew on the show, we were talking about trauma, and he gave an example of what could have been his trauma, and it was. And hearing Dr. Drew say, like, oh, you don't need therapy, you need trauma therapy, like a specific type. And he worships Dr. Drew. You're my Dr. Phil, and that's his Dr. Drew. A lot of we love doctors. And so now he's in therapy and loves it.
It's great.
Yeah, and the thing is, you do what works. And, some people, I meet some guys that grew up in athletics and they respond to coaches that jerk a knot in their tail. You do what works. And it's not the same thing for everybody, but I do know and it's the same thing that I see with patients, in whether it's a medical patient or whatever. If you can get the patient to buy into the treatment plan and they own it, there's a lot of research that says malpractice cases against doctors are inversely related to the amount of ownership the patient has in the treatment plan. So if the patient has ownership in what you're doing, their likelihood of suing the doctor, no matter how bad things go, is zero. It's kind of like, this was our treatment plan. The patient says, I had ownership in this. We did this together.
Yeah.
He's not going to sue the doctor. I've studied cases where they cut off the wrong leg by accident, and the patient didn't sue because they felt like they were part of the treatment team.
Wow.
You got to get people invested in the process.
Yes. So get them invested in wanting to help themselves. That's a great answer. What was my second question? Anybody? Oh, yes. What is the correlation between, do you know anything about gut health and your brain health? Because I have been on a journey of no sugar, no processed food, and I've lost all my baby weight and then an extra 20 pounds. And I feel, not only do I feel like great in my own skin and my body, but I also notice I'm feeling like I can control my stress more.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I came in, you look like a ninja.
I look amazing, right?
Like a ninja.
A ninja. Thank you so much. No one's ever called me that. Thank you. I love that.
I mean, she was down the stairs before I could even get to the
I
second
was,
floor.
I
I'm
was
like,
running.
where the
I'm
hell-
sorry. I'm
She's
quick.
quick.
I'm
Where the
fit.
hell
I
did
work
she
out
go?
really hard. So thank you.
Where did she go? We turned the corner, she was gone.
Gone.
But no, listen, I am a bit, when I went through my training, and you probably know this
I did.
already, but when I went through my training, I did clinical and behavioral medicine simultaneously. And behavioral medicine, for people that don't know, it's kind of medical psychology, but it's the point at which your physiology and your psychology, your physical functioning and your psychological functioning merge together and interact. And for every thought you have, there's a physiological correlate. I mean, people that are depressed have a different physiology than people who aren't. People that are anxious have a different physiology than people who aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't think that's true, just think about, and this is not hard to do, just think about biting into a real crisp, vinegary dill pickle.
Yum.
Think about biting into it. I mean, really think about it. Smell it. Think about it crunching between your teeth. Think about it exploding into your mouth. And what happens? You start to salivate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't touch you. I didn't introduce a smell. I didn't put anything in your mouth, but yet your body responded because it started to salivate just because you thought about it. What makes you think it would be any different if you're thinking anxious thoughts? Your adrenal glands start to secrete. You put out cortisol. It changes your chemistry in your gut. Everything changes. And when you retract that, then the noise in your head quietens down, your ability to concentrate, your visual acuity improves, your concentration improves, your vigilance improves, your situational awareness improves. Everything changes. And there have been so many studies, even with Air Force pilots. You know, they'll have them on a screen where they have to push a button every time a light flashes. They can have a light occasionally flash in the periphery, and their visual acuity goes down from 100 to like 80%. You can start flashing one here, there, and around. It drops into the 70s just by a few distractions around.
Wow.
And then if you're starting to think about things that are threatening to you, there's something called perceptual defense. And I actually replicated a study about this when I was in graduate school. We got a bunch of blue-haired ladies at the Baptist church, and we put them in this stereotaxic thing where we would flash up words in front of them. And you'd flash them up for just a fraction of a second. And you could put oak tree and car and baby. And man, they would just see them. And then you would put up something really profane. I mean, something that was so counter to their value system. I mean, a really ugly word. They wouldn't see it.
Wow.
But their physiology would go crazy. Then we would leave it up 5 times as long as the other words. They still wouldn't see it. But their heart rate, their pulse rate, their galvanic skin response, everything would go through the roof. But they would look at you and say, "I'm sorry, I missed that one." They wouldn't be embarrassed because they didn't see it. Perceptual defense would not let them see it, but their body went crazy. So if you think things that are threatening to your value system, but you deny them, your whole body goes nuts.
Yeah, that's like when Dr. Drew was telling you about your trauma when you were younger. When he was younger, he was like, he kind of, you can explain it, but you kind of like pretended it didn't happen and was like, okay, bye guys. He had a sleepover and they bullied him really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And he just left the next day like nothing happened. And Dr. Drew was like, your whole chemicals and your body changed that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of put on that mask of everything is fine, I'm moving on.
And sometimes that can be actually protective. I worked with a mother one time who was in a car wreck and actually saw her daughter decapitated.
Oh my God.
But she had no recollection of seeing it. But she saw it. It protected her from it.
Wow.
But you could lead her back to that memory and she could see it. But she needed not to see it.
Yeah.
But it was there. And if anything triggered something close to that, her whole body would go insane. So if there's something buried and things start to trigger it, it can really send you cascading and you don't know why. And if that happens, you need to start saying, okay, I need to figure out what that is. Because there are triggers out there and I don't know what they are, and therefore I don't know how to defuse them.
That's what was scary is like when I was having my panic attacks, I was like, but I'm good. Like I can't complain. I've got a great life. I had this and that and that. And my body was like, you're not okay.
Yeah, it knows things you don't know.
Yeah.
Because whether you think of it as subconscious or just unconscious, something is pushed off center stage. It's over on stage left. That doesn't mean it's off the stage. It just means it's not currently being focused on.
Wow, wooey. So sugar's the devil, right? Sugar's bad, okay? Right?
Well, that's a non sequitur, but yeah, it's not. That's not a good thing.
I mean, I was going back to my gut health, brain happy.
Yeah.
I was trying to reel it all back, but yes.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about sugar. Sugar's tough.
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing.
And I actually had a guy on recently that said in the colonial times we had, I think, 2 pounds of sugar a year, and now we consume a 5-pound bag of sugar a week.
Oh, no.
It's disgusting, dude.
We're disgusting.
Oh, dude.
I'm not
2 pounds
anymore, though. I don't do
2 pounds
it.
a year.
Yeah.
And now it's 5 pounds a week.
That's
My
got to
God.
be attached to all the sicknesses.
That's the drug you got to watch out for.
Yeah, that's a real drug you
and
got to
it's-
watch out for.
And he also had a statistic that 83% of the items in a grocery store have sugar.
That's real.
Green beans.
Yep.
All of these things.
You
and,
think you're doing right, you're not.
and he said the reason is because there's such broad distribution now, and it's part of the preservatives that keep the foods healthy, so you can distribute them 1,000 miles away, 2,000 miles away. That part of the preservatives contains sugar. And that's why it's in there. 83% of the items in the grocery store have sugar added.
Yeah, my nutritionist and my husband's a nerd about like, what do the ingredients say? Because when it's a bunch of big, long words that you don't know and sugar and all the bads, he's like, no.
Yeah, and this doctor that was on, and I'm blanking on his name, but he said, safest thing you can do is do all your shopping on the periphery of the grocery store.
Oh, wow.
Don't go in the middles, because all the produce and stuff, the unprocessed foods are on the outside. And
That's a good trick.
And all of the processed foods are on the inside.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why is that? And he said, because they change those out every day. Because they're not preserved, so they have to change all the produce out on a daily basis, so they put it on the edge of the store.
Smart.
I had no idea.
I had no
That's
idea.
Yeah.
My managers, their minds are being blown. Every time I look over, they're like, oh my God. Oh Lord. Okay, and then I have one more question. I don't know about your questions, Ryan, but this is just my time.
Yeah.
This is
do your
my
thing.
birthday. Do you it's kind of like a 2-question part. Anyways, do you ever like have moments of I'm overwhelmed or I'm depressed or I have to work on my mental health? And or do all the tough cases you're talking about get to you? Like that's gotta affect your chemicals after the 1000th story, after all these stories of like heartbreak. Doesn't your heart hurt sometimes?
Yes, of course it does. And
Are you okay?
I think so, but that's about a 9-part question, and let me break it down in each part. Does it ever get to you? Yeah, it certainly does, and I've had to really discipline myself to compartmentalize. You can't take it home with you every day. You really have to compartmentalize. And this will sound like semantics, and it really isn't. Or at least I've convinced myself it's not. But I approach what I do not as I deal with problems all day, but I try to approach it as I deal with solutions all day. And that's not just semantics, because I try to bring things full circle. And so by the end of the day, I try to focus on the fact that I delivered some things with a verb in the sentences by the end of the day. Somebody came with an issue, they came with a problem, and I either pointed them towards a resource, got them something that they wouldn't have had otherwise, or gave them some action steps to do. And I focus on that instead of what the dark issue was. And so many people, I can't tell you, but probably 90% plus of the letters that we get finish with, "You are my last hope." Mm-hmm. I mean, we have nowhere else to turn. And I always think, why didn't you call me first? Well, and I've said that to some people, and they said, well, I've written you 27 times.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, everyone on your show at this point is like, they've written in 30 times, and we got it.
I know, I feel kind of bad.
It's a lot. It's a lot of people.
I know, and we get to them as best as we can, and sometimes we will choose a story that represents 500 other stories.
I like how you did that.
But we let the viewers decide what we focus on, but I really do try to think about it as we're focusing on solutions here. We're trying to give people something to do because they don't know where to go. You try to find a therapist, a helper, and you go to the phone book, which is now the internet, and they all look alike. You don't know, and at least with me, you may love me, you may hate me, you may think I'm a barbarian or the second coming of common sense, but you at least know what you're getting. And I really try to stay committed to evidence-based therapies, and we have a really good advisory board made up of the top minds in psychology, psychiatry, medicine, sociology, nursing, all the different disciplines that I rely on when I'm looking for answers on really complex stories. And a lot of these people are editors of the peer-reviewed journals, and there's an 18-month lag between research and publication, so we get beyond cutting-edge information. We get it before anybody else does, so we really try to give people what's really out there. We've got like the head of the family division at Harvard Medical School, the head of the children's division at Yale, Dr. Zimbardo at Stanford University. All of these really top minds that I can reach out and talk to at any given time about a story, and they really help me a tremendous amount.
So cool. So cool. Ryan, what are your questions?
I guess I want to circle back to the mental health, and I feel like there's a lot of young people listening. And I remember I don't even think I told Megan this story, but I remember being a freshman in high school. I was struggling with that move, and I was not feeling okay, but I I didn't really search for help. I remember waiting for my mom to pick me up. I'm drawing out help in the sand. I'm upset. And I would just turn to weed
Oh my
or
God.
substances. I was, now that I've sobered up, I'm like, I was a depressed individual, but I felt maybe I was too stubborn or
I knew
it
that.
wasn't cool. I wish I can go back and literally ask my friends and family, hey, I need help. I'm not feeling okay. How do you, like, what is the deal with why is it so hard to be a teenager? And what's going on with a teenage brain that everything does seem like the end of the world? And you don't realize until, now I'm 29. I'm like, you just worry about the present moment and stop getting so frustrated with what happened in the past or what's maybe not even to come that you're worried about. Why is it so hard to be a teenager?
And why is it so hard to ask for help at that age?
Yeah.
Well, because who do you ask? I mean, there is such a stigma, and there's so much lack of empathy and so much bullying that goes on because at that age, everybody's so insecure that they do what's called leveling. And when I say leveling, I mean insecure people try to level, and that is they either build themselves up if they perceive somebody superior to them, or they try to shoot that person down to their level. So it's real hard for insecure young people, 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, to have the ability to be empathetic and say, I need to give to this person. I need to be a soft place for this person to fall. I need to support this person because they're insecure and they think that's going to be at my expense. And that's not true of all kids. Some kids are well socialized, but your brain's not through growing until you're 25, at least 25. And so kids at that age are not well socialized, and so it's hard for them to practice empathy and say, Ryan's hurting right now, and I need to make this about him instead of about me. So what you do is you turn to a counselor, and that's something that we don't have enough money behind in the schools. And if you're seen going into the counselor's office, you're doing it in front of the whole school, so you feel conspicuous.
Yup.
Yep.
And so now you go, I saw Ryan going in there. What's he, nuts? So there's a stigma associated with it. So there's not really anywhere to go. And that makes it hard. And kids that age don't want to go to their parents and say, I'm being picked on, bullied, or feel marginalized because they're embarrassed to tell their parents. They don't want to tell their parents they're a dipshit. They don't want to say, I'm not the popular kid. I'm not the cool kid. I'm the marginal kid, and because they don't want to disappoint their parents. So there's all of these things that stigmatize what the kids need help with, and that's why we need to give them a place to go with anonymity where they can reach out for help and give a voice to their feelings where they can realize, all the kids are feeling that way. And the only way to do that is to put money in the budget for it, to put money in the curriculum for it. And I think a big answer for that's going to be in telehealth, where kids can get on a computer in their privacy of their own home and talk to counselors.
Okay. Let's do it.
Love that.
Well, yeah. Well, Jay and I started Doctor On Demand.
I love that.
And that's been a big help for that,
Doctor On
during
Demand.
during the pandemic. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, speaking of that, can we just show what the fans sent in? I told our listeners that you were coming, and we won't keep you here for too long, but I want you to read one of these or a couple of these because they're really good.
All right.
This I don't have an answer for, but I wondered if you did. Who's this from? Chels. Hey, Chels. Any tips for overcoming postpartum depression or balancing your mental health needs while also being a mother?
Yeah.
As a mom, how do you feel?
Yeah.
No, like overcoming postpartum depression. Postpartum depression is very real and very spooky. And I stayed on half of my medications. I went off of, I was on a very light dose of Ativan, and I'm on citalopram, like 30 milligrams. And I stayed on that because my doctor said it was safe, and I got off of the Ativan. And I think staying on that through the pregnancy and after and still today is the only reason why I didn't have any depression.
Yeah, and listen, you're exactly right. Postpartum depression is very real, and it can last for a long time. It isn't just something that can last for a few weeks or a few months. And your research tells us that if a mom is getting her chemistries and her body back a year later, that's not unusual.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to get everything back in balance. So, number one, I say above all else is be patient with yourself. The worst thing you can do is judge yourself and decide, well, I'm a bad mother because I'm feeling this way. That means that I'm somehow inferior, I'm doing something wrong, or I'm just not cut out to be a mother. That is absolutely not true. That does not mean you're any less of a mother than the one that's got all of her kids dressed up and in a buggy and going down. That's just bullshit. That's just bullshit. Don't think that. Be patient with yourself and understand this is a biochemical phenomenon and has nothing to do with your value system, has nothing to do with how much you love your child or how much you want to be a mother or how this is going to turn out. So number one, be patient with yourself. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but number two, give your feelings a voice. And if you don't have the resources, wherewithal, money, access, or whatever, to go to a physician or a psychologist or psychiatrist and deal with this, get into a support group. Because there are so many mothers out there that feel exactly the way you do. And when you talk to them, they will say, oh my God, that's exactly what I did and or how I feel. I'm just 3 months down the path further than you. What helped me was A, B, C, and D. And third, I will tell you that nutrition and exercise are so important. And you go, oh, well, yeah, great. I wish I had time to do that. You do have time to do it. If it means you've got to get up 30 minutes earlier or you need to call on family, friend, church members, whatever, you must carve out time for yourself. You got to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. And if you've got to get out, walk around the block, do whatever, you've got to take care of you or you can't give away what you don't have. And value yourself. Treat yourself with dignity and respect. Love yourself. Give to yourself. And that will start changing things faster than you can imagine.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. That's what I did. I started my whole fitness work
Right.
Yep.
life, and but you're always gonna have a moment where you're like, am I the worst mom? No, you're not the worst mom. You're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's what happens while you're a mother. Okay, here's another one. This is great. How do I say this name? Leilani, Sarah Elizabeth. I use humor. I can't read. I use humor to deflect emotion. So do I, and my therapist tells me I do that. However, going to the doctor 2 years ago was the best decision I made. Many doctor appointments, therapy, and two prescription changes later. I don't regret it. I feel whole, which is a new feeling. Is there a time either of you knew this can't be normal and sought out help? And by doing so, did you discover any new feelings, emotions that you hadn't ever felt before, that you had to become comfortable with, realizing, damn, this is what it's like to have a steady, functioning, healthy mind? Absolutely. Yes. I've always, when you were talking about the counselors in school, I've always been asking for help. Now that I think about it, like I was friends with our counselor. I don't know if my friends knew it, but I would like sneak up in there and be like, "Hey, I'm not doing great. Help." So I love asking for help. I love asking questions. I want to know why my brain works the way it does. That's why I love your show. So I did have my aha moment. It was when at 2000, I don't remember, 4 years ago or something, I had my first panic attack. It was 4 a.m. I was getting ready to be on live television with Gayle King, and I was announcing the new Grammy nominees, and I had my first panic attack at 4 a.m. And then I was like, "What is this?" And my friend said, "That's a panic attack." And I said, "When can this happen again?" She said, "Anytime." And I was like, that was the wrong answer. It's like, I wish you lied to me. So ever since then, I was trying to find help. And then I found, like, I went to acupuncture. I was Googling everything. I listened to TED Talks. I went to a psychiatrist, Dr. Bowman, shout out. And I told him all my symptoms, what was happening. And he was like, "Oh, your chemicals are off. You're okay." And hearing that, I was like, I'm going to live. And then he gave me medicine, and there's like a bunch of different types, and not one fits all, so you have to try them out. Luckily, my first try was great, and I noticed it took a month, but all the vibrations and all the loud noises stopped, and I could breathe. And I've been on that medicine ever since, and I love it, and it changed my life forever, and it truly saved me. What was the question?
You got it. You crushed it.
Yeah, I'm like,
That was a
man,
phenomenal answer.
I can have this
It's
brain.
like, when did you realize, like, oh, I feel good?
And I always knew I wanted to be a mom. Like, I was on your show talking to Robin. I was like, I'm trying to make babies. And but I knew, I was like, I got to fix this first before I make another one. You know, brains help brains. So I need to make sure my brain is 100% before I try to raise someone else's brain.
Yeah, and something I'd like to add to that, and she was saying, is there a point where you found out, wow, this is something new that I hadn't gotten to before because I hid behind humor. You can find things good and bad. And one thing I want to say, sometimes, particularly because there's a spike right now post-pandemic with young people and suicide. And I want to say to people that have these panic attacks and feel like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. And they think one way to escape this is, I just don't want to be here anymore. I want to say, if you're thinking that, if you're listening to this right now, and you're contemplating taking your own life, ending your life, you don't want to do that. That is a permanent choice for a temporary problem. And there are so many people that I've talked to that made non-fatal attempts that are so glad that it was non-fatal, that after the fact says, oh my God, what was I thinking?
Yep.
I'm so glad that didn't help. There is help. There are people that care. There are solutions, and it does get better. And you are a perfect example of a person that was in a panic attack, felt like the entire world was caving in on you, and thought, this can't go on. I mean, you cannot live this way.
Yeah.
And look at you now.
Look at me now.
You got a great life, a great baby. It did
My
end.
baby's going to be 1 tomorrow.
Isn't that great? But just think about it. It's so many things have happened first panic attack. And I just want people to know there are solutions. These things are manageable. They're fixable. And if you're thinking about ending your life, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Do not do it. There are people who care, and you can pick up the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and that number is on my website, and you can put it on your
We're
website.
linking it below.
And trust me, when you call, they're not going to pressure you to do something you don't want to do. They're not going to send jackbooted people through your door. they're going to listen. They're going to support. They're going to give you help and resources. There are people out there that care and help, and you just don't ever want to choose that solution. There are 1,000 options before you ever get to that one.
That's right. We care about all our listeners listening to this. You just got the greatest advice ever from the king himself, Dr. Phil, on the couch.
Yeah,
Oh my
Call
God.
911. Do anything.
Anything.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. We love you. Don't leave us. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we took up over an hour of your time, right? We did great. Oh, it's the best day of my whole life. Ryan, did you have anything else? Do you have a TikTok? Do you have anything you want to say? My TikTok is lame. Don't play it. Usually we play a TikTok.
I guess to answer that question, when did it kind of click in for me?
Yes, you. I forgot your hair. Yes.
I guess around like the 6th month mark of sobriety, once my brain started to function correctly. And I started reading this book, The Power of Now. And I feel, recently my therapist was like, hey, everything that you're saying to me right now, you probably have ADHD. Like the way that you live your life and how it's going, has anyone ever said that to you? I was like, potentially.
Is there a test you could take?
Yeah.
What's that?
I was like, is there a test you could take?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take a test for you.
I'm trying to avoid medicine at all
Okay.
costs. And
Okay.
for that world, I feel like I know the tool. I had the tools. So
Okay.
I just have to like focus hard on whatever task I'm doing, focus on that one task. But what has made me feel better is to, accept whatever negative thoughts pop in my head and almost talk back to them and flip it around and turn it into positive talk. Like Megan, you've taught me that as well.
Yeah.
And,
can you say
and-
your line? Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, you're good.
Can you say your line that you say when you I've been trying to quote you and I've been doing it wrong. When you have one negative thought, your brain hears it like 14,000 times.
Well, yeah.
You're good. I want to hear this.
Me
No.
too.
Well, what happens is we take over for bullies, in particular, and sometimes we're our own bully. But we talk at, it varies, but like 120 words a minute. Robin will sometimes gust up to 180,
Like I'm up there.
but we think at 12 to 1,400 words a minute.
There it is.
And so think about it. A girl's going through the lunchroom in the 8th grade, and some bully says, "You're fat and ugly." She might hear that one time, "You're fat and ugly." She can repeat that 1,000 times in a day.
That's crazy.
So the bully says it one time, then she takes over for them and repeats it 1,000 times.
Mine sometimes lasts for years.
Well, I'm saying a day.
A million.
Yeah.
Just in a
So-
day. Just in a day, 1,000
In a
times.
day. That's
And
crazy.
so think about it. When you program that into your brain, and there's an old joke about guys in prison for life that they just have the same jokes and they get so well known that they don't even tell the jokes anymore. After a while, they just say number 52 and everybody dies laughing.
Wow.
It's shorthand. And that's what happens when you start doing these things over. You just get this shorthand in your brain where you repeat it even more than 1,000 times a day. And that's why I say you've got to stop and empty your brain out. And I tell people, if you're going to listen to your internal dialogue, you need to get it out of your brain and write it down. You have to get objectivity, get distance from it, and write down, what am I saying to myself? You think, well, I'm listening. I know what I'm saying. No, write it down so you can look at it and make a list, say, oh my God, that's what I'm telling myself all day long? Holy shit. No wonder I feel like hell.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you can start asking yourself, is this a rational thought? And is it a rational thought? Number one, is it in my best interest? Number two, does it get me what I want? Number three, does it protect and prolong my life? number 4. I mean, you just go down the list of
Yep.
of
Dr.
the-
Amen had me do that.
Yeah, and
He's like, write out all your negative thoughts.
and then when you test them for rationality, then you go, wow, it does. If it violates any of the tests for rationality, then you say, okay, I need to reject that and replace it with something that is rational. Is it based on fact? Yes or no? Does it get me what I want? Yes or no? Does it protect and prolong my life? Yes or no? You go right down the list, and if it's no for anything, then you say, okay, then what is? Then you have to generate a rational alternative.
I'm literally tearing up.
And that's how you take control of your life. I mean, it's how you take control of your life. That's how you control anxiety. It's how you control your panic attacks. You start generating rational thoughts to replace your irrational thoughts. We don't break habits. That's a misnomer. We replace one set of behaviors with a new set of behaviors.
Oh, man.
Be kind to yourselves.
Be kind to yourselves. Oh, my goodness. Okay, let's let him go live his best life.
And Ron, you're obviously doing exactly that. You've replaced a whole set of behaviors with a whole new set of behaviors. And God bless you for doing it.
God bless you, brother.
Thank you very much.
We're
trying.
so proud of you.
I'm
He just
trying.
wanted to make you proud.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you are, and you're doing it, and you're being public about it, and instead of doing it in the shadows. And
Yup.
that means everybody that watches you and listens to you and sees what you're doing is saying, "Look, he can do it. I can do it." And you should be really transparent about what you're doing, because it gives a template for people to follow and go along with. So I'm glad you're being open about that.
Yeah, I'm trying. If I could help one person, that would be cool for me. I don't know, man. It's every day. I'm
You're
on
a
it. I'm
hero.
freaking out. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out.
I'm freaking out. I'm sweating. Okay. Well, you also have a podcast that I was on.
Yes, you were. Thank
Promote
you very much.
yourself. Do all your stuff. Watch his show. Keep him booked for 21 seasons.
Yeah, we're in our 20th season right now, and it's going really, really well. It's been tough during
The pandemic.
the pandemic. I mean, last year we couldn't fly guests in.
Yeah.
This year we can fly
I've
guests
watched.
in.
We're
Yeah,
Zooms. Yeah.
And we got virtual audience. Now we are able to get live audience back in. We're able to fly
Mm-hmm.
guests in. And I'm still doing...
It's still a great show, even though they're over
yeah.
Zooms.
Yeah, and most of the guests are now live on stage. We're able to get them there, and like today we just taped a show on social media,
Oof.
and it's staggering how much social media has infiltrated our world,
Oh, yeah.
and how much young girls are influenced by it. And they're trying to emulate these images that are all filtered and everything, and they can't get there from there, and it's destroying their self-image and self-esteem. And tomorrow I'm doing a show on suicide, and it's all of these young people that have taken their lives, and seemingly out of the blue. I don't believe it's out of the blue, and I'll point that out tomorrow, but that's why I was talking about it so much today. There are alternatives, and so we have some of the world's leading suicide experts on the show tomorrow. We're talking about that. So I'm trying to really deal with those things that I think really affect a lot of people. And we're dealing a lot this year with social issues coming out of the pandemic. And also it's really keeping me engaged. And we're talking about that on Fill in the Blanks as well. So
Yes, fill in the blanks.
a lot going on. Yeah. And Robin's podcast is great.
Yes, Robin.
She's doing I've Got a Secret with Robin McGraw.
Yes, I've got a secret. So good.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Yeah, she's doing good with that. And Jordan's about to have a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Rose about one.
Another
you guys
one,
had them about the
yeah.
same time, and Jordan and Morgan are about to have a baby soon.
We did.
so-
We had the same expecting date.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. And so Rose about one, and the other one's about here. So
Oh my God! Wow. So they just got okay.
yeah.
When
good
do I
enough.
do? When do I get pregnant again?
Anytime. I think you're about got it going on.
Right. It got to start soon, right?
How many are you gonna have?
6. No. 4.
See, I think two's perfect. 'Cause
Two?
Then you can see with two you can play man on man.
Okay.
If you have
okay.
3 or 4, you got to play zone.
We were
Gotta play
3 and
zone.
one was already left at zone. I get it. Yeah.
Plus, the world's designed for 4 families of 4. 4 top tables in restaurants.
Yep,
Cars
yep.
are now built for 4.
The world's designed for 4.
These are amazing points. You pay attention. You got 4 dogs. Look
All
what
right,
happened. I got 2 of
all
them.
right. Well, I know I get to do another one, so let's see at 2. Let's see how we're doing. Yeah, I got 4 dogs. Oh God.
Yeah, we had 2 kids. My son Jay has 2 kids. Jordan's going to have 2 kids. I think you can play man-to-man defense that way.
Okay, 2. We'll see.
I love that.
Yeah, you got a look on your face like you want more.
I want a village. I want a bunch of them. You see my backyard? I'm trying to have them all playing outside. Okay. Well, thank you
Thank you so much for your
making
time.
my
It was truly
birthday
an
dreams
honor.
come true.
I wish I could be on that couch with you. For those of you listening, check it out on YouTube. I'm in my room on Zoom. I'm in a suit. I got in a shirt and tie and a jacket for Dr. Phil. We still partying downstairs though.
Yeah, the shorts.
Not a full suit, but that's
when I got here, Megan was putting a lock on his door. She wasn't going to let him out. So I don't know what to do.
I said, Ryan's way up there in his tower.
Well, you have a
Take
beautiful
any
place
chances.
here, and you have a fun
Thank you.
staff, and so thanks for letting me come over.
Thank you. This is the best day ever. Okay, thanks for listening and watching. I hope you learned something. We love you.
Working on a pod, all socials. Thank you
Working
so
on a
much.
pod, all socials. Smash it. Okay, love you. Bye.
Working on